Hi, my name is Marty Dahl. I'm the president and founder of Haskell Health and Safety Canada. Welcome to the second part, my two-part series reviewing last year's new and Young Worker Awareness Blitz from the Ministry of Labour. I hope we can learn from last year and maybe get you prepared for this year. Earlier in the program, I reviewed the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and now I'm going to review the Industrial Regulation 851. So this is the most widely applied regulation after the Act. There's multiple regulations. I'll show you a list earlier, talk about a list in a second here. Before the retailers and the food beverage, F&B people, the churches, you name it, don't turn me off quite yet, because you actually fall under the exact same industrial regulation as an automotive manufacturer or warehousing, whatever it might be. So let's look at last year. So the highest number of orders from their Blitz last year was with retail establishments, and their orders equaled 2,313 orders. And this is an order then of number of orders applied. So restaurants were second, food and beverage and tobacco plants were third. Tourism, hospitality, and recreational facilities was fourth. Wholesalers was next up. Wood and metal fabrication, industrial services like cleaners, industrial cleaners, vehicle sales and service, chemical, rubber, and plastic. And the final category was automotive, actually, with a huge subsector under the category of automotive, with the fewest orders, 117. I just think that there's been such a focus on automotive in Ontario for so many years. We understand in automotive how to do this stuff, so I think that's why they're at the bottom of the list. So congratulations. So this time they're going to go out from today, July 15th, until August 30th, and they're going to be looking at the things I just talked about, but they're going to have extra focus on these things: training and orientation provided by you, the employer, for example, supervisor and worker awareness training. They're going to want to know more about the internal responsibility system with the IRS. For example, they want to ask you questions about your committee or your health and safety representative. A good functioning IRS or internal responsibility system means your committee or your representative are doing their required inspections, that the employer is responding to those recommendations as well. They'll be looking at workplace violence. It's a big category, and harassment as well too, workplace violence and harassment. They'll look at minimum age requirements, especially where the industrial regulation applies. And they also might ask you questions about your heat stress policy. Now, in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, there is nothing that says, at 38 degrees, we need to take a break, but that's a good number to look at. 38 degrees Celsius is when we need to start giving breaks out. There's only a bottom number of 18 degrees Celsius in the law that says it has to be warmer than 18 degrees Celsius. So a note for companies that are 5 years old or newer. So if you're a young company and they haven't come out before, they might come out this time. So inspectors will focus on workplaces newly registered with the WSIB and have not had a proactive health and safety visit in the last 5 years. So this is your year probably for that. So they do track this stuff, so if they've been there before or not, so have a look out for them. Let's get ready for them. Last year, inspectors took appropriate action if violations were found on the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and these included writing just simple orders to employers, supervisors, and workers to get them to comply. If you don't have a seatbelt on the lift truck, you'll get a $200 fine? That comes out of your own pocket as the operator, and then they'll ask you who your supervisor, and they'll get a $300 fine or whatever the number is, close to that, out of their own pocket. And then we start with the beginning of the act and making sure we've got our house in order. So issuing stop work orders requires employers to comply before they can continue to work. It's the most powerful, I think, thing that a worker could be a part of, issuing a stop work order. In other words, there's something so dangerous that if we don't fix it now, someone's going to get hurt. So in addition to the orders under the Occupational Health and Safety Act and the Industrial Regulation 815, they are going to look at Regulation 297. I'll talk about that in a second. Regulation 860, you know it, I know it, it's called WHMIS, right? Make sure you got the brand new course called WHMIS 2015, the GHS stuff, pictograms and all that stuff, they have to know about that. Also rollover protective structures, so Reg 856, so that will be for your some of your equipment where you have cabs and operators. They'll look at noise as well too. Cannot be over 85 decibels of noise, time weighted over the entire work day of 8 hours. Designated substances, there's 11 designated substances: asbestos, benzene, coke oven emissions, isocyanates, lead, mercury, on and on. Regulation 490. Regulation 278 is for asbestos on construction sites, so that's a little bit different. Construction companies are under Industrial Regulate 851 while they're at their shop, while they're on transit to the construction site. They're still under Regulation 851. Until they get inside the fence, then they're going to be under the Construction Reg 213. And one of the last ones here is Regulation 833, one of my favorite. It's about controlling of exposure of biological chemical agents in the air. So if you're grinding, moving around stuff, sanding things, stuff can get airborne. That's what this is all about, airborne contaminants. So if you want to meet the definition of compliance under the Act, you must at least know these regulations. Call me if you need a hand with that. So with Rate 51, let's take a look at the industrial regulations. So we'll go through each category. So housekeeping, they'll be looking at there. So you might want to have a clean as you go policy, keeping things spick and span. They'll look at paper on the floor, granules, liquid, slippery stuff, slip, trip, and fall hazards is our category we look at. Floors or other surfaces must be free of obstructions, hazards, accumulation of garbage, of snow, of ice, whatever it might be, and not have a slippery surface on it where you're going to slip anyway, right? Openings need to be guarded. So for housekeeping, don't just leave it there, put it back on ASAP. And what else do we have here? Barriers and warning signs must be used as needed. So that's a little bit in the housekeeping. The fire safety is the next one. So let's conduct an unannounced fire drill once a year and have it documented. Look at the results of it, see if you can get a feeling of what you need to improve on your fire safety plan. Storage of flammable liquids must be stored in sealed containers in areas away from workers. Obtain a fire safety plan template from your local fire chief. They'll be happy to share that with you. You can complete that with your safety committee, send it back to your fire chief, or invite them to come in and go through it to make sure you've got it rock solid, okay? Machine guarding will be the next one. This has been around since the dawn of government, I think, inspectors. Machine guarding is, if the guard has to be removed, you've got the wrong piece of equipment. Don't remove the guard to fit the stock. You've got the wrong piece of machinery to begin with, okay? Machine guards, hazards have been present for a very long time, and it's definitely something that they're going to look at. Even your pedestal grinders. Guarding must prevent an in-nip hazard. I'd rather call these getting your hand ripped off hazards, because really, that's how horrific they are. I'll be back with the second half of this video of 851, and again, it shouldn't take more than 10 minutes or so. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, and stay tuned.